suffering and actually doing it. The people that are anxious constantly overthink things, and this is where I've been for a long time. If you overthink things to a certain extent, you're creating more and more anxiety. So you're actually suffering more in your head than you're actually suffering in reality. Because if you think a thought over and over again, and you think a thought enough, it actually starts to become reality. It starts to become something that you can't see your way out of. And anxiety feeds off inaction. It feeds off of the fact that you do not take execution on something. As soon as there is execution, as soon as there's real life application, anxiety, it's hard for anxiety to stay because it's no longer in your head, it's being acted out. Um, and one of the things that we do is we wait for motivation. We wait for a certain feeling in order to act something out and to do something that we know we need to do. Um, but as soon as we bridge the gap and we actually decide, you know what, I'm going to create momentum. That is the biggest way to deal with anxiety, is you create momentum. If you're scared to do something and if you are anxious about something, um, or whether that be absolutely anything, the only way to get rid of anxiety is through relentless execution. Um, the biggest thing that I do when I used to get anxious a lot is I would go straight into action, because the way to get anxiety out is through the body, through physically sitting there and breathing and meditating. It never really worked for me. I had to physically have some output. I had to physically go do something, because it always bridged that gap from inaction to action. And as soon as you start bridging that gap, the anxiety disappears slowly and actually becomes easier and easier to take execution, because it's like a snowball effect. As soon as momentum builds, it builds, it builds, it builds. And then eventually, like, I'm not even going to think about this, because why am I being anxious about something that is just, I can just quickly do. The longer you leave an idea or a thought in your mind and you don't act it out, the more that anxiety builds. The same way that if you execute and if you decide to take action on something, the more your habits and the more your brain is inclined to take action on something, the more you build momentum. The same way it is with anxiety. If you leave it in your head for long enough, it will just take root, and it will just start building and building and building. So the biggest way, I know it sounds difficult, but it's just is to execute. Execution is the best form of cure to anxiety, because you see for yourself and your subconscious also registers that you are taking action on something instead of just thinking about it. And you realize that the anxiety you had about something didn't really exist. It was all created in your head. And then you subconsciously start to create new neural pathways. You subconsciously start to create new ideas and new ways of thinking about it. So when that thought comes into your head next time, or something you're anxious about comes into your head, you execute. You execute immediately. No matter how you feel, you execute, because that was a big thing for me. Whether it was a decision I need to make that I'm anxious about, or it was something I wanted to do that I was anxious about, the more I would sit and think about it, the worse the anxiety got. And that is a big problem for people that are just major overthinkers, and just people that think about things so often and think about things over and over again and trying to reason themselves into a decision instead of just moving towards the decision. Because if you wait till you feel like it, that moment will never come. But if you do it, you will start to feel like it. Um, have you ever been on a time where you say, oh, I'm going to run, I'm going to wait to feel like I need to train, but then one day you just decide, you know what, screw this, I'm going to just train. I'm going to just go to the gym, I'm going to train. And then in the midst of the training, you actually start feeling like doing it. But before the car ride there, before you just actually started doing it, you didn't really feel like doing it. But then you're there and you're like, yeah, I actually want to do this. And I know anxiety can be such a broad topic, and I'm not just saying that everything exists in the mind, but the best way to deal with it is always execution. The best way to deal with it is always action, because action triumphs over the thoughts that you are thinking. As I said, we build so much suffering in our mind. We build so much, how can I say, stronghold in our mind. But as soon as that action comes across, as soon as you decide, you know what, I'm gonna think about this for 5 seconds. I'm not saying this big life decision. You have to think about things. But if you start overthinking things and you start over replaying things in your head, you're just making your mind sick. You're making your lifestyle stagnant, because you can become very, very stagnant if you just sit on a decision. You sit on a thing you know you need to do, but you don't do it, and you just become stagnant. And that's what people do. But if you become someone that decides, okay, I'm gonna think about this, I'm gonna take action, I'm gonna take action, I'm gonna take action, I'm gonna take action, no matter what, how you feel, no matter what the possible Outcomes could be, no matter what you're anxious about, it could be about what people think, it could be a relationship, it could be a decision you need to make that you're so anxious of the consequences. And then you make the decision and you realize, oh, okay, none of those consequences actually happen. So I just spent all this time being anxious about something. Um, it says in the Bible, do not be anxious for anything, but by prayer and supplication, present your requests to God. And then the peace of the Lord will surpass all understanding, will be with you. And I'm paraphrasing that a lot, so don't quote me on that. But praying, casting your anxieties and your burdens on Jesus is also one of the biggest things for me personally, because a lot of the things we cannot control. As humans, we love to be able to control things. We love to be able to take hold of things and then feel as if it's in our control, feel as if it's in our mental capacity to think through things enough. Because as overthinkers, if you think something, you feel like if you think through something long enough, you'll eventually figure it out. But sometimes you have to leave it in the Lord's hands, and sometimes you have to just present your requests, present your anxiety, cast your burdens on Him because He cares for you. Um, so that's one of the biggest things is action. First of all, action. Second of all, um, bringing it before the Lord and realizing that you do not have control. Do not be anxious for tomorrow because you do not know what tomorrow will bring, but you do know who holds tomorrow. Bang a line, bang a verse, because you realize that ultimately your Creator has plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. So why would you be anxious about anything if you present it towards, put it at God's feet, and you decide, Lord, I'm not going to be anxious about this, because if I'm anxious about this, it means I'm doubting the fact that you can pull through, or that you know what you're doing, or that I am in your hands. So why would I be anxious about anything? Now it's kind of taken a bit of a turn in terms of execution, but a lot of the times you just need to execute. You just need to execute because momentum comes with execution, and the more you build momentum, it's like an exponential growth. It's difficult to make that first decision, and then as you make decision, that anxiety will leave, and it becomes it's almost second nature, just to act, just to act, just to act. Because if you sit and think about a decision for long enough, you're not going to take action. So build the habit of relentless execution and relentless action, despite what you are feeling in terms of your anxiety. So, yeah, hope that's helpful.